What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Well. Looks like it's boxing politics as usual. I just had a entertaining time watching fights tonight. I was really looking forward to the Tavares Cloud Adonis Stevenson fight, as well as Chavez Jr. versus Brian Vera. I will do a separate video about Adonis um, Stevenson and Tavares Cloud. I thought that'd be more competitive than it was, but it wasn't. Main event: Chavez Jr. versus Brian Vera. Honestly, I think the decision was some bullshit. Another attempt to protect the cash cow, to protect the fighter with the more popular name, to protect the fighter with the namesake that's forever embedded in the sport of boxing. And it's not so much that I just hate the decision, even though I think Brian Vera won the fight. It's not even so much that I had, but even if you were going to give Chavez Jr. the fight because he did land the more telling, the more destructive punches, without a doubt, there's no way on earth you could have those scorecards that they had in that fight. Having Brian Vera win 2 rounds and Chavez Jr. win 8. Like, come on. I just think that's complete and utter bullshit, and it's it's one of those black eyes on the sport of boxing. This is a sport I love, you guys love. That's why you're watching this video, and I don't think Chavez Jr. looked particularly good. I think we've seen a classic case of a much bigger man, someone who refused to come up in weight, or excuse me, to budge with weight. We kept allowing, or Brian Vera and the decision, he was paid handsomely or whatever, to allow Chavez Jr. to kind of dictate and mandate what weight he could make. The fight was supposed to basically be taken at least two, probably like 2 or 3 different weights. Chavez Jr. kept missing those. It was supposed to be a 12 rounder. Then they switched it to 2, or excuse me, to 10. And all around, Brian Vera got screwed all around this whole circumstance. He was the one who was making weight, who made his weight, had no problem making his contracted weight, and Chavez Jr. didn't. And they changed it multiple times. He was the one that was probably conditioned to go 12 rounds, but they changed that. So everything about this favored Chavez Jr., and this is some bullshit. Like I said, even if you had him winning, which I didn't, it was a close fight, and it was close for one reason. It was close because Chavez Jr. is a Goliath in comparison to Brian Vera, and Brian Vera just didn't have the steam on all of his punches to really move Chavez Jr. as much as Chavez Jr.'s punches had on him. I think this was a piss poor Chavez Jr. that showed up. He definitely looked ring rusty. He definitely looked like he wasn't fully conditioned for this fight. I just really have, and I still do, especially after this performance, question his discipline to the sport of boxing. Like I said, they changed the weight multiple times on Brian Vera. They went from a 12 rounder to a 10 rounder. I think Brian Vera should have won the fight based on sheer activity and energy. Yes, Chavez Jr. landed bigger shots, but he was picking his shots, and it didn't result in any knockdowns, even though we all think that Brian Vera was rocked and hurt by him. He still took it. He still ate those shots and kept firing back. And his volume of punches shitted on Chavez Jr. No matter how you slice it, the sheer volume, work rate, activity, and he ate the punches. Despite if we know he's hurt or if we think he's hurt, he still ate it. He wasn't drastically, like, he didn't look as hurt as like Timothy Bradley did against Ruslan Provodnikov. He looked hurt. He looked buzzed. He looked like the shots affected him. But I could have told you that going into the fight. Chavez Jr. refused to get on the scale tonight because he probably weighed some ungodly amount, like 190 or 200 or whatever he weighed. He refused to step on the scales for the official weight of fight night. That is not what the bigger man is supposed to look like at the end of the fight. If you look at these pictures that I provided, this is the winner of the fight and the bigger man who had every advantage. He was the bigger name. He probably had more of the crowd going into the fight. The amount of rounds were cut down. Just overall a shitty performance from Chavez Jr. Like I said, I think he was able to get away with some rounds or stealing rounds just because he's a bigger dude. with more pop, more crack. So his punches look like they affected Brian Vera more. But it doesn't like Brian Vera was more or less the slow and steady wins the race. Chavez was being overly cautious. He never let his hands go. Maybe towards the end when he knew it was like desperation and it was like closing, he might have like opened up a little bit more. But he was taking shots. It just again he has a chin, and I mean that's really it. He's the bigger man, and he has a chin. So I think that's bullshit. Like I said, I can't stress this enough. Especially those scorecards. Those scorecards were egregious, very absurd. This reminds me of Richard Abreu, Brandon Rios. Reminds me of all those shitty decisions we've seen in recent memory. And one of the most ironic things in this whole fucking fight is the fact that the bigger man, somebody who was clearly outweighing his opponent, and he looked massive next to Brian Vera, but the bigger man is the one who is complaining about the smaller fighter fighting dirty. If you're Chavez Jr. and you're that fucking big and you can fight and you come from a boxing family, why on earth are you spending so much time arguing with the ref, fighting with the ref? I think Andre Berto did that, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing in the Robert Guerrero fight? Your eyes are swelling. Robert Guerrero is coming at you relentless. He's showing that same work rate that Brian Vera was showing early on in that fight. And what are you doing? You're fucking bitching and complaining to a referee who's not giving you the calls you want, and you're trying to pout about it. This is the hurt business of the fight game, and I find it mighty ironic that if anybody should be complaining, maybe Brian Vera should be complaining. The weight got switched on him 3 times. He was already not the favorite at any weight. The rounds got switched. You know what I'm saying? Everything. But the person that was doing the most complaining in fight was Chavez Jr. Like I said, you're the bigger guy. You could definitely impose your size. I just think he was ill conditioned. I don't think he was really ready. He looked really ring rusty. And again, I question his dedication to the sport of boxing. Fitness, training, mindset. He shows willpower just by not getting knocked out, but that could be genetics. That could be his dad's chin. He just inherited that. But like I said, I'm not really seeing how he's going to compete at a high level with the Gennady Golovkins and the Peter Quillins of the world, the Andre Wards, who are known gym rats. And this is what they know. This is all they know. They have a lot of amateur experience, Olympic experience, and they condition their bodies, always pretty much stay in shape. I don't see how he's going to compete like that. Like, you're not always going to be able to impose your power and land these onesie twosie punches and win a fight. I really don't see that. You're going to have to let your hands go. And I was honestly expecting for a moment like the Andy Lee. I thought that was one of the fights where Chavez Jr. probably looked the sharpest, looked the best. Early on, he looked puzzled against Andy Lee, but once he got it together and started putting stuff together, he had Andy Lee on the ropes, and he was just punishing Andy Lee's body. He would let his hands go. He was showing some showmanship, all of that. I thought he looked really good in that particular fight. But at this fight, the bigger man looked hesitant. He looked like he didn't want to let his hands go, like he was afraid, like he wasn't conditioned. Something was up, and I just think it's kind of pitiful given the circumstances. I don't think the right man won tonight. Like I said, even if you had Chavez Jr. winning, he shouldn't have looked like that in that fight. He should have probably stopped Brian Vera. He was physically stronger, physically bigger. I believe he had the arm length advantage because it looked like Brian Vera had T-Rex arms, really short arms. It definitely in comparison to Chavez Jr. If Chavez Jr. doesn't get his shit together, I fear when he steps up against another elite fighter like he did with Sergio Martinez, I don't see him being able to get in there with the Canelos even, unless Canelo's just way too small for him or whatever, or the Gennady Golovkins. I just see these people like giving him the business, even if he doesn't get knocked out. I mean, he was taking punishment, he was taking shots, he looked fatigued early on, he was breathing heavy, and you're just fortunate that you were in there with the puncher who was not a lethal puncher. But shit, get in there with Peter Quillin and looking like that, get in there with Gennady Golovkin, perhaps even Canelo, depending on how Canelo looked if he moved up. He's going to have problems, especially if Canelo was going to the body, because he looked really fatigued early on. So I just think it's some bullshit. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to go ahead and watch the All Access Marquez versus Bradley, sip on this drink, and just calm my nerves. Like I said, it was a very exciting fight. It was a good fight. I don't think the right man won, and I don't think Chavez should have looked or performed the way he did, given all of the head start that he had going into this fight. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.